They don't protest or boycott. They learn to produce better. I thought that was good. Number 9, they think in terms of abundance. In other words, there's no limit to the supply. I thought that was really good when you apply that to our Christian life, right? God doesn't have limits. All right, number 10, they play the long game. Number 11, they focus on being healthy. That gym was really packed this morning. We laughed about that. Mrs. Spasek told me. How was that gym? I told her I was going to meet her at 4, but, she beat me there at 3. All right. Number 12, they study other successful people. Number 13, they have mentors. Number 14, they understand the world is changing. And number 15, they try to make the world a better place. I thought that was really great. That's just an opener. I don't have a whole lot of jokes. But I will tell you this. I'm going to tell you my funny blonde story. I had a blonde moment this morning, and if you get a call from the hotel, it was Amy. Somebody gave me a little gift bag last night that had this pair of black Christmas socks in them, and they were so warm and fuzzy, and they were lovely, and I thought, I'm going to wear those to bed because my feet get cold. And a lot of times I sleep with a heat pad in my bed just for my feet, I should say. And so I thought, I'm gonna wear my black socks to bed. Okay, so I'm in a motel. Is anybody else here a little, you get just a little paranoid about hotels? And it was lovely. I don't mean, the room was gorgeous and very, very clean. But is anybody else like that? Did y'all get like that? Okay, my husband laughs at me because I had a planter's wart real bad as a teenager on the bottom of one of my heels, and I had to have it cut out. And so I won't even get in a shower in a hotel. I put a hand towel on the bottom of the shower. Does anybody else do that? Okay, y'all make me feel better. Okay, he laughs at me. So I went to bed with these black Christmas socks on. So I get warm at night because I tend to burrow in the covers, as my husband says. And this morning my alarm went off. Okay, I turned the alarm on. And I usually try to pull the covers back or down some because I have to cool off to wake up. I get real cozy. And those socks were wonderful. And I opened my eyes enough that I looked at the end of the bed, and there were all these little pieces of black fuzz. Y'all know where I'm going, right? I almost come out of that bed because I was like, it was off the socks. And it was everywhere, all in this beautiful white pristine sheet on this bed. So if you get a call from the motel, because I did not have a lint roller, and I thought the maid is going to have a heart attack because it's only at the end of the bed. It was hilarious. That was my blonde moment today. I had a cow fit. So, all right, does everybody have your paper? Okay. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And Brother Todd, are you up there? I can't see. Okay, I think we're ready to start. So I would like for you to answer each of these questions. The first one, do you want to accomplish the will of God in your life? Shouldn't be too hard, right? We're all Christians here, I think. Most of us, anyway. All right, so that should be an easy one. Now, Miss Vicki was wonderful with her last talk, and I feel like yesterday I was sitting there and I told her, I said, I don't have anything to say that's going to go with anything. And so hers helped me a little bit. She hopefully inspired you this morning, and I want to kind of continue on that path a little bit. All right, number 2. Can you list 3 goals that you have for 2020? And you have 5 seconds. No. Write them down. Maybe you have a goal for your Christian life. Maybe you have a goal for your marriage. Maybe you have a goal for your children. I don't know. Maybe you have a personal health goal. Does anybody in here, I can't really see with that light. Does anybody pick a word for each year or a verse, and you kind of go with that? Last year wasn't the first year. I've done it for 2-3 years, but last year my word was prepared. I'm not sure how well I lived up to that. But do y'all do that? Do you enjoy doing that? I try to have a thought for the year and a goal. All right? Number 3. If you could do anything for God and not fail, what would you do? That's a kind of an interesting question, isn't it? They asked 600 junior hires the same question. Not necessarily, they didn't add the for God, but they asked them, if you could do anything and not fail, what would it be? That's good thought, right? So you write answers down? Okay. So will you go back to the number 1, the first one? Before that, the very first one. There we go. So I want to talk to you today a little bit about having a renewed vision. A renewed vision. And if you'll turn to that verse, Proverbs 29:18. And we're going to start there today. It's a familiar verse. Most of you could probably quote this. Where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Let's pray. Dear Lord Jesus, I ask that you would please just be with us today. Lord, help me just really to say and try to convey what you would like. In Jesus' name, amen. Someone, this doesn't really have anything to do with anything, but somebody asked me yesterday, how do you sing songs like that and not cry? I get really excited about music. I love music, and I have decided that I am an adequate musician, put it that way, but I love a really good song. And if you have not really ever thought about it, a songwriter who writes a song has to take what a pastor does in 30 minutes, usually, and condense it into about 3.5. And we expect it to rhyme and be metered correctly, too. And the really, really good ones do it in a manner where you kind of walk away singing part of it, you know, even if you don't know the whole song. And you really only have to hear it once or twice, and then you'll go, oh, I like that, you know, or you'll remember the hook line from it. And so I'm not too bad sometimes at writing songs, but sometimes I can be a little scattered trying to convey a thought, so I'm really going to ask the Lord to help me. We read this verse, and my goal is to try to help you set some goals for yourself for the next year. To try to maybe take the next step in your Christian life, whether it is in an area of personal growth, whether it's in, like I said, an area of marriage, whether it's the next step in child rearing. Life is a struggle, isn't it? Sometimes it can really be a struggle. And we try to take the next step. We come to meetings like this and we want help in a certain area, and maybe we have a real need. And we try to look for that need and ask God to really help us. But lots of that starts with where we're at today. So, Brother Todd, would you go back to, I think it will be on number 4. This is new for me. I have never done a keynote presentation, and they gave me an iPad at school, brand new, and it's been interesting this year. So I'm trying to get further up on my technology, because me and technology don't mix very well. And I'm trying to learn, because they want me to use the iPad. Our piano at school Bluetooths to the iPad. So the sheet music comes up on the iPad, and you have to change the page, you know, instead of turning the page, you have to push the pedal, turn the page, which is really great until you have to skip back 4 pages. And then it's a little odd, so I'm trying to learn, and I'm trying to learn some new programs. I was challenged by a very dear man of God to try to get with the program. And I'm blonde, I'm not. I'm redhead. And my freckle buddies are in the back. Say hi. Go ahead to the next one. Keep going. I don't know. There we go. We must start where we are today. We have to take an honest look of where we're at. How many like to shop? We just got done with shopping. How many bought something over there? Okay. For years, I think even when I was in college, people will look at you sometimes. How many are blonde? Put that one. Okay. People tend to look at the blondes and go, really? Right? And they kind of make a snap judgment. We all do that, right? We all kind of make a snap judgment of, okay, they're the little cheerleader type, and, they're the, cute, whatever, dumb blonde. And I was never really a dumb blonde, but I do think that there are a few people who think I'm not really good for anything but shopping. Now, I'm a good shopper, and they don't complain when that saves them, thousands of dollars when I'm designing the new church building. But they think that that's kind of funny. On Black Friday, I'm not really a big Black Friday shopper either, but my husband started years ago. And he would go Black Friday shopping when we just had the 2 girls, and he would get up really early, and he would always come home with these amazing presents for the girls, and he would tell me what he had bought. Like one year he bought my 5-year-old a karaoke machine, and I almost murdered him. Or he bought them a $40 Barbie that he wanted them to leave in the box, and they didn't leave it in the box. When they're 4. But we went Black Friday shopping this year, and I went with my husband for the first time. And so that was fun. But we went to an outlet mall that we don't go to maybe once or twice a year, and some of the stores had closed or moved around, and we have a mall not too far from us, about 45 minutes away, but malls nowadays they're dying, right? I mean, how many of you have one around you it's half empty? Yeah. You go there on a weekday, and it is like a ghost town. And some of my favorite stores, they've done away with, which makes me really sad, because I like to shop. That's fun. And but one of the first things that we had to do when we got to the outlet mall, because we knew we wanted to go to certain stores, was we had to find the directory. Do you know what you know what I mean, right? And what do they always say? They always have a big star on them, and they say, "You are here." Exactly. I grew up in the day of maps before Google Maps, and I know how to read a map. And you have to figure out you are here, and so you have to figure out today where you're at. If we're going to be honest about what we're going to do for the Lord, and we want to accomplish, how many answered yes, you want to do God's will? Yeah, that's everybody, right? We have to figure out where we're at, and we have to start where we're at. Sometimes that's different places. Sometimes, I did not have the same start in life as some other people, and you might not have either. I went to Howes Anderson College at age 16, and that was way too young. Don't go to Bible college when you're 16. I don't care. But I went at age 16. I was a stupid kid. I mean, green, stupid dog. I was the one. And I just didn't know any better. I can't tell you how many elective credits I have, because I can't tell you how many semesters I would just sign up for a class and then decide I didn't really like that class, so I was going to go visit somebody else's class, and I would over-absence this one and forget that I was actually enrolled in that one. And I don't know, I was just in La La Land, but I was just a kid, and I kind of grew up. I met my husband when I was 17. And I told my girls yesterday, I'm still amazed sometimes that my husband married me. Don't tell him I said that. But sometimes we were very young. And I was really kind of, I don't want to say flighty. I wasn't dumb. But, at the same time, I really wasn't very focused on where I was at in life. And my husband both of us have always said we would love to go back to Bible college now that we're older, because now we're old enough to know what questions to ask. And we would actually maybe get something out of it. It would be exciting, not that we didn't learn the first time, but it would be very exciting, and it would be so easy. And my son is in Bible college now, and he's 19, and we told him, his sisters told him too, when he left home, we told him, we don't care if you flunk every class, just don't get kicked out. That's it, we don't care. Because you have to pay to retake them, that's okay, just don't get kicked out. That's all we care, you know? Stay as long as you want, but, you know, fail every class. I don't care, son. You know, but don't get kicked out. That was our only goal there. So you have to start where you're at, and sometimes that may be very different. When I was in Bible college, Brother House used to get up all the time, and he would teach, if you haven't faced hard times are coming. And honestly, as a 16, 17-year-old, I used to sit there and go, how much harder can it get? Now, you laugh, but the truth is, I had a pretty rough upbringing at times that was very schizophrenic, and I was a very hurt person, and I had to grow up very quickly at the age of 11. And so I really used to think, oh my goodness. You know, I used to look at myself in the mirror at 16 and go, I look old. Because you know how you see people who have been through hard times and they have all the lines under their eyes? That was me at 16. And I was like, wow, you know, okay, I would really just like to have a little breather, Lord, you know, for a few years. And God was really good to me, and he still is. But you have to start where you're at. Some of you, it might be you've grown up in church, and you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about as far as a hard time. You know, your hard time is you got to run in your pantyhose. Okay. You know, or somebody else wore the same dress on Sunday. Okay, you know, whatever. But, you know, and some of you face some really hard things. You have to start where you're at. Start where you're at today. All right, the next one. Now, these 1, 2, 3s are what you should write down, not my things earlier. All right. No goal equals no purpose. Sometimes in life, I think we kind of get to a point in our Christian lives, especially, where we feel like, okay, I'm a pretty good Christian. I serve the Lord in this manner, but we really don't go any further. Or we kind of look at ourselves in the mirror and say, okay, you know, this is as good as it's going to get. You know, and we don't really try to do anything else for God. And I don't know about you, but I don't want that to be me. I think one of the only reasons that I managed at House Anderson College at 16 was because, as Mrs. Muchler said yesterday, I came to myself at the age of 13 and said there has to be a better way. And I went in search of it. And God helped me find it. Bless his heart. Thank you, Jesus. But even though I'm undeserving of that, that was my goal. I went to people when I was in college, and I asked them could I have an appointment. And a lot of times I had no idea really what I was going to ask them. I just wanted to get around other people, because I didn't really have friends growing up. When you graduate, when you're 16, the kids that you are in school with and doing the same schoolwork as hate your guts, because they're all 18 and 19 and you're making straight A's, so they hate you. And the people that are younger than you, they might like you, but if you can sing and you're kind of cute and you're making better grades than them, you know, then they don't like you either. That's how I grew up. I don't know if anybody can relate to that. But I didn't have a lot of friends. And when we went into the ministry, I was very prepared to not have best friends in the ministry. And all you pastors' wives can understand, right? So I came to the place when we were in the ministry where I felt very alone. And I didn't like that. And that's why I became the puppy dog who just bugged everybody. And so if you need a friend, I'm here. I need friends. That's always my answer. I need friends. But no, seriously, I just decided if I have to choose friends to be around, then if they'll tolerate me, I'm there. If they will let me be around, I'm there. I'll be the fly on the wall, I don't care. But hey, this is fun. And it makes life fun, right? But I have to have a goal. When you go to the mall, do you go to a certain store? Like when we went to the outlet mall, my husband, we went with a purpose. We went to the Coach store. No, I did not buy a new Coach bag, although I might win it. I'm very excited. We have a challenge going on in our church. Our church ladies have decided this year, and we hadn't done it for quite a few years, they memorize 2 verses each week. And so when they come to church, they say their verses to each other and they sign their paper. And so it cuts down on the gossip before and after church. But if I ask for a show of hands, who in the last year has memorized 104 verses? Can anyone raise their hand? I'm looking. Okay, I don't see anybody. How about 50 verses? Ooh. How about 10? Okay, there's quite a few. All right. So we just decided that we were going to try to do 2 verses each week. And if they did it every month, all year, then their name goes in a hat. Now, I did little prizes at each month for the ladies. And every 2 or 3 months, I'll get a big prize. Like last month, we gave away this big plaque that said blessed. It was really cute. And we just draw for it. So it's the luck of the draw. But in December, the last week of December, they have until the end of the year to catch up. If they've missed any months, we are drawing for a Coach purse. And it's party. Oh, it's so party. My daughter and son-in-law, my husband, we all went, and we went in the Coach store. And we picked a nice one. And I just figured if I like it, the ladies will like it, right? So that's our big prize. And some of them have been working really hard. And next year we're going to try to do our verses again. We're going to try to do them consecutively. Did you all know that there are only 108 verses in the book of James? That's only 4 extra verses. If you do 2 a week, I mean, it's not that hard, right? Remember, we're blind, but we're not dumb, right? If you don't have any goal, you have no purpose. How are we ever going to accomplish something for the Lord if we just wander around? You know, we're like little kids wandering around in the toy store. Ooh, shiny, right? And they get distracted by every little thing. And sometimes that's us in our Christian life. We get distracted by every little thing and thrown off course, and because we don't have a purpose. So no goal equals no purpose. Number 3, someone is waiting on the other side of your surrender and obedience. Is there anyone in here and one of your goals, you would share what you wrote down as one of your goals? Anybody? You're not feeling brave today? Okay, right here.
Read my Bible more.
Read your Bible more. That's wonderful. All right, anybody else? Plan ahead. Yeah, I need that one. Okay, yes?
Help my kids get plugged in.
Good. All right, I think any of those things, and any goal that you have. If you have no goal, you're not going to hit anything, right? Do you know, if you just walk out with a gun and you're hunting, you know, bing, you're not going to hit nothing, right? We bought my son a bow and arrow a few years back, and so we bought him the target, and so I got halfway decent But, if you're not even aiming, that's a problem. And we would not let him outside when he first got it. We would not let him outside without one of us supervising. Because I'm thinking, nope, because the neighbors are going to call the police. Oh, that will not be good, right? Because I didn't want him just bing, up in the air, and shooting something crazy. Sometimes that's what we do with our lives. And I'm not the best at it, but I want to have a goal for what I want to do for the Lord. Because what we fail to realize is life is a struggle. And if we are going uphill most of the time, but we stop, if we're going upstream and we stop, what happens? You're just there, or you float backwards, right? Have you ever seen people, have you met people, do you have them in your church, where you go, wow, they used to be so on fire for God, what happened? They quit trying. It's a press. In the teen session yesterday, we talked about a higher calling and how we're supposed to press for that. They quit pressing. That's what happened. I don't want that to be me. I want to keep growing as a person because I need that. I didn't start off where everybody else did. I started off, a few steps back, so I got to catch up. But I want my life to count, and I don't want to stop. It's very interesting. I'll tell this story. I went on vacation this last year with my husband and my son, and we went to the Grand Canyon. We went to Sedona in Arizona, and it was our last vacation that we knew with our son. And we took a guided tour of the Grand Canyon, which was really awesome. But the funny thing was, the guide probably had to tell us 20 times before he would let anyone off the bus. People, there are no guardrails. And you have to pay attention to where you're at and be careful. Because they had 4 people in the last 2 months who were taking selfies and went off the Grand Canyon. Now, I'm blonde, but again, I ain't dumb. I don't want that to be me. And sometimes we see people in their Christian lives and they quit moving forward. So what are they, I don't know, maybe they're happy with where they're at and they decide to, hey, look at me, and off they go. Right? I don't want that to be me. And I don't think any of you do either, or you wouldn't be at a meeting like this. So, number 3, someone is waiting on the other side of your surrender or obedience. Just out of curiosity, did somebody write down as a goal, maybe God wants you to write a book. Maybe God wants you to become a soul winner. Maybe, I don't know, there's 1,000,001 things. Maybe, the Lord wants you to learn an instrument. Maybe God wants you to teach a Sunday school class. What is hindering you, so to speak? What's keeping you from that? Somebody's waiting. I know right now in our church, we need Sunday school teachers. And there's a class of children, and they need a Sunday school teacher. But we've had a number of people who've told my husband, no, they're not willing to do that. And sometimes you kind of sit and go, come on, you can do it. And it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter where you started in life, do something. Moms, I know Mrs. Bassick talked about prayer yesterday, but I will tell you, we have 3 children, and I think one of the greatest things that we ever did for our kids is we taught them that their church, that they go to every Sunday, that God needs them, and they have a purpose in that church. If your kids are old enough to walk, they should never attend church on a Sunday and not have a job. And I don't care if it is to pick up the paper out of their pew, if it's to hold the door for somebody. My daughter used to hold the door on Sunday mornings for people when she was little, and when she got boots for her birthday. and they had fringe on the back. And so that particular Sunday, everybody that came into church saw her boots, because there she was, Woo! She wanted one of the sweetest things, my son for many years, there's a big gap between my girls and my son. We had both girls, they were 9 and 7 when my son was born. So we had a good-sized gap. So he feels like he has 3 mamas. But they're all grown now, and he's 19. But one of the sweetest things was, for a lot of years while they went to college, it was just me and him. So he's my buddy. And every Sunday morning, we got in ritual where he would get up, and he and my husband got up very early, and he went to church with my husband. And it has, to be honest, he did stuff at the church with Dad. Daddy would buy him breakfast at Burger King, and the waitress at Burger King knew their order, and just from his voice. And so every Sunday morning, they had that down pat. But it's been an adjustment since he's been gone, because my husband hasn't had his buddy to help him on Sunday mornings. He had responsibilities. His job was to walk through the building and straighten the chairs for Sunday school, or maybe it was, fix the coat rack, or, whatever. That's how they serve. There's a place for you. I don't care who you are in here. There is a place and a purpose that God has for you, and somebody is waiting for you to do it. Somebody needs you. And I don't know about you, I can be my own worst enemy. And I can talk myself out of a lot of things sometimes. And I found this last year. I don't want you to write these down, you can just listen, because I'm going to go fast. But it's a proven fact, if you say a negative to yourself, that it takes, does anybody know how many positives to overcome that negative? Anybody heard this? Usually it takes about 10 positives to erase or eradicate one negative. So when we have that thought in our mind of God can't use me, God doesn't want anything that I have, I'm not worthy, I can't do that, I'm not capable enough, I'm not talented enough. It takes a lot to erase that. Are any of you like that? I mean, do you, some mornings you wake up and you really do feel like the blonde, right? Okay, some people make you feel that way. All right, so here we go. Now this may seem silly, I started off saying these to myself in the mirror, but I don't need to look at myself, but I do read over them, and I try to read over them every morning. So this is something that some of these things I say to myself. I am highly favored of God. That's my favorite, because God's been really good to me. Really, really good. Unbelievably good. I am valuable, qualified, forgiven, and loved. Maybe some of these you need. I am confident and courageous. I'm just blonde enough to get out there and do it, right? Okay. If you could play the piano and sing better, have at it. But I'm going to give it a shot. I have extraordinary opportunities given to me. I do. This is one of them. I get excited about that. Just like I get excited about a good song. I wish I had been a guy so I could say amen in church all the time. Because sometimes you just want to go, woo, that's a good song. And if I'm at home and I'm on piano, I will. And I stop myself when my kids just laugh. But anyway, I attract God-inspired ideas that produce great wealth. And I'm waiting for some of the wealth, but I think I do have some good God-inspired ideas. Do you really think some of these things about yourself? Because this is a big thing. I have a prosperous mindset, and I am blessed to be a blessing. In other words, can I help somebody? It would have been very easy for me to get up here and say, they don't want my CD, that's stupid. I don't listen to my own CD. Do you listen to your own CD? Seriously? Yeah, I don't. Like every year that I come, I have to pull my CD out so I remember what I wrote, and I wrote all the songs on it. It would be really easy for me to go, they don't want that, and talk myself out of it, right? But I hope that would be a blessing to you in some way. I have the grace to embrace every season of life. I became a grandma 4 months ago, and she's beautiful and perfect, And I am Mimi. So if you want to see my baby, I will show you pictures. But I'm happy about that. I am a new empty nester. Our last kid left home, and I'm like you, love it. And mind you, my husband drives a truck at night, so probably from noon to 10 o'clock when I go to bed at night, I'm by myself now. You know, I don't mind that. That's okay with me. I get to go and do whatever I want, which is really fun. Some days I just put my pajamas on. Some days I wear black fuzzy socks. How about this one? I am healthy and full of energy. I decided last year that I was no longer going to get hung up on this whether I'm healthy or whether I'm not thing. I'm just going to do my best, and I'm trying to make effort in that area. But I'm claiming that God has a purpose for me. So I decided to claim my goal is to live till I'm 104. And my husband will instantly, out of his mouth, say, I am never going to make it that long. And I just tell him, I don't want to hear it. You're not leaving me by myself, and I'm going to live till I'm 104. So we're going to go for it, right? Because I figure, hey, I can still do something for God. It doesn't matter what age I'm at. I can still do something, right? God will still have a purpose for me. I am disciplined, spirit, soul, and body. I have the wisdom of God to make the best decisions. I cannot tell you what peace of mind saying that to myself has brought me. Because I don't know, I'm with Mrs. Munchler. One side of my head is saying one thing, and, sometimes it's just a whole chorus of people going in there, and you kind of laugh, but sometimes we're our worst enemy. And we think there's nothing that I can do that will matter to God. It does matter. I don't care who you are, it does. I live with passion and purpose. I know that all things are working together for my good and for His glory. I like this one. This was my favorite. I am fulfilling my life assignment down to the last detail. I told the teenagers yesterday, my hardest birthday was when I turned 35. Can anybody guess why? Well, I know the teenagers know. Because I had heard a number of preachers preach on the 70, right? 70. God will give you 70, and maybe more. But I had heard a number of preachers speak on that. And when I hit 35, I sat down and had a long, hard talk with myself. And I thought, half my life is over, and that's a little scary. And I gulped real hard. And I sat and I thought, am I happy with that? I want to be. And maybe I better, if this is the second half and it's all downhill from here, everybody wants to tell you that, I got to get my act together and stop making excuses because somebody needs me. On days when I don't want to go into church, somebody's there and they need me. And it doesn't matter if it's an adult who needs to talk or if it's just a little girl who needs to see her pastor's wife is happy in a church with a smile on her face. And sad to say, there have been a lot of times when I've gone to church and I sit at the piano, so I play at the end, and when I'm done, there have been days when I've skedaddled right out, and I don't want to talk to anybody. I get peopled out. I can relate. But somebody's waiting on you. Somebody needs you. Somebody is waiting on the other side of your obedience. And they need you. When we went on vacation at the Grand Canyon, my husband and my son, it was just the three of us, so we were the vacationing three. And they were very protective of me. They were very nice, and they were very much gentlemen. And we were in Sedona, so they kept talking about going hiking. I'm not a hiker. Okay, I like shoes. That's not for me. If I can hike Multnomah Falls in 3-inch heels, maybe. And we did that, right? We did that, Mrs. Gabbers and I did that. But, so we went to this one place the one morning, and I don't know what it is. There's all these it's gorgeous. You've been to Sedona? It's really pretty. There's all these rock formations. So we went up one time, and so I put my tennis shoes on that morning. And I said, okay, let's go hike. And they're, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, this one isn't that bad. And we can make it, and it wasn't any worse. And there was a couple of spots that were interesting, but they were real protective, And don't get too close to the edge, Mom. That's my son. Do you need help? And they were trying to help me. And this poor lady come up there, and she was much older than I was. And she had to sit down 2 or 3 times as you went around this thing until you made it up to the plateau. But she made it. She said, I'm going to do it. And she was telling me she'd had a hip replacement, and so she was struggling with some of it, but she was determined she was going to do it. And I think sometimes in our Christian lives, we need to get some of that kind of grit. I'm going to do something for God, and I'm going to make it happen. We have a lady in our church, and she's been such an example to me for the last year. A little over a year ago in October, she was in a combine accident less than a mile from our church, and they farmed the field that our church owns. Her husband does, and so they rented farms. And she went out in the field just a little ways, and the combine caught her, and it ripped from the sockets her left arm and her left leg. Now, she is extremely physically fit. She would spend about a month every year hiking the Appalachian Trail with her grown sons, and she was in the hospital for about 3 days before they would let her get out of the bed. And as soon as she got out of the bed, she started doing squats with one leg. So that tells you what kind of person she is. And I've watched her this past year. She has a prosthetic leg. She has a prosthetic arm because she lost everything out of the sockets. Then she's had a very difficult time with different things. And her arm, she wasn't happy with her arm. So she has now a rod with a rubber piece on the end because she couldn't move the arm. And in October, she was trying to drive the combine again with one arm. She's amazing. I've not ever heard her complain. She'll come, how are you today? And I'm thinking, oh, I'm good compared to you, baby. What you want me to say? I'm walking in here in 3-inch heels, and she got rid of every pair of shoes she owned, at least one of them, because she only has one foot. She, when she's laying flat in bed, she literally cannot roll over, except to get from one side of the bed to the other, she kind of has to do this backflip thing. And so they cut the end of their headboard off so she could make things easier. When you look around, you can't complain. I don't care where you start. But she's willing to do something for the Lord. She has been to probably 30 churches in our area in the last year just to give her testimony in different places. And she stood in the nursery the other night with my daughter and my granddaughter and myself because she wanted to come see the baby. And she said, it's all worth it if only one person gets saved. That was her purpose. And she's okay with that. And she's wanting to go hiking again next year. I'm thinking, how in the world? I don't want to hike now. The Bible says turn to Romans, and we're going to be finished here. I'm going to try to be quick. Romans chapter 12 is very familiar. And I want to give you this quick acrostic. I don't think I put this one on there, but you can write it down. Romans chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. I'm old. I like the acrostic things because I try to remember them. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Now, I asked the teenagers yesterday, If I held in this hand a $20 bill and in this hand a $5 bill, who's gonna, and it said, make your choice. You know, there ain't anybody in here except the blondes who are gonna pick the 5, right? Because my name's Jimmy. If you're gonna give me whatever, $20, then I'm gonna take it, right? Sometimes I think that's exactly what we do with God. Nope, I'm good. I'll just take the 5. I don't want this big opportunity, Lord, because, I don't know, for whatever reason, I feel like that's a little too much for me. Duh, come on, you get better shoes, right? Take the 20, right? We would all say that. And I asked the teenagers yesterday, if I wadded it up and throw it in the trash can, how many of them are going in the trash behind me to get it, right? All of us. Because we hate. There's nothing worse than to see wasted potential or wasted opportunity. And that is, I think, the thing that we're probably going to stand before the Lord and be the most ashamed about, is the wasted opportunity. And I believe that's why God will have to dry our tears. And I don't want that to be me. It will enough as it is, but I don't want that to be me. If I'm picking good, acceptable, or perfect, I want the perfect, don't you? Do you want good, acceptable, or perfect hair? Come on! That's not even a question, right? Do we want good shoes, acceptable shoes, or perfect shoes with the perfect outfit? That's all of us, right? And, no matter what your taste is, that's all of us. God says that he wants us to be a living sacrifice, holy. I write Holy down, and I'm going to give you an acrostic very quickly. We'll close with this. H stands for honest confession. And we touched on figure out where you're at. Have an honest evaluation and confession of where you're at. Figure it out. Start where you're at. O. The next one. Onward and upward. That has to be where our focus is at. Stop letting your past define your entire life. If I could scream something at people, I want to scream that to them. Stop letting one event that was really, really bad define your whole life. Because I just determined, bless God, I am not going to do it. I had to face a lot of hard things at an early age, but I refuse to let that define my entire life. I'm not going to do it. Stop it. Look onward and upward to the Lord. He will help us. L. Leave the old things. I really want to just take a minute and hit on this. When we are just determined to hold on to the old things, and sometimes we won't allow people to save face, we will never see growth in others if we don't let them save face sometimes. We live in a generation that, and please don't take this the wrong way, but we live in a generation and a world now that says, I have a voice and I deserve to be heard. Do you know you still have the option to not tell everything you know about everybody? That's still an option. Mrs. Mushler talked about people saying mean things at church. Sometimes I wish we would just get a revival of being kind. We need that. And being kind in this aspect. 19 years ago, my family had a really bad thing happen. And my parents, we lived in a very small town, and my parents had to face that. And it has taken 18 years. And I went on a trip with my mother this last summer. And it's taken 18 years before she would tell me some of the things that the people in the church said to them. She was so hurt. And they won't go back there. And the Lord let them move through a set of circumstances and led them. They moved way south. They live in Atlanta now. And they go to a wonderful church where people love them. And I'm so glad of that. But you have to understand, when I was growing up, my daddy didn't go to church. He had nothing to do with it. And I'm not really sure that he would have said he was saved. And through the course of events, this last year, I watched my dad be ordained as a deacon in their church. And they did it on the Sunday that I was there. And I sat and bawled. Because all my children know are grandparents who go to church and don't call on Monday night, or Grandpa won't talk to you because Grandpa's preparing his sermon for the next day because he preaches and they hold a service at a nursing home every week of the year. And Grandpa won't talk on Monday night because he's busy. And they go in and we sit, and my children see both of their grandparents who sing in the choir. My mom is on YouTube. My mother never sang when I was growing up. My mother took 17 years of piano lessons and could play circles around me on any given day of the week. And she would not touch a piano because someone was mean to her in church from the time that I was like 5. In fact, I went down to visit them, and I made her sit down after church and play a song for my children because they had never heard her play. And her choir director come up running and said, "Oh my goodness, are you in trouble?" Because nobody knew. So now she plays. Now she sings. My dad is in the choir, and he's a deacon. Can I tell you? Can I be just really perfectly blunt? I'm going to go like this for just a second. That would not have happened if I had not kept my mouth shut and let go of old things. You have to sometimes let people grow as much as we want grace to grow. God's been so good to me. You have to let go at some point. And I'm not trying to say, people, please don't just take it the wrong way. But let's move onward. God is so good to us because there's better on the other side. My kids know nothing but grandparents and a heritage that they serve the Lord and love God. You think I would trade that? Okay. Last thing. Why? Yield daily and renew regularly. It takes work. It's not overnight success. Nothing is. It's a daily surrendering. To keep your mouth shut, to not demand your voice, to not demand your way, is a daily surrender sometimes. And we have to commit to renewing them. These are things God wants us to prove in our own lives. And I hope that in some way I have encouraged you, motivated you. That's what I want to do. I want to be the cheerleader. Here you go. I'm really good at that. I used to be in high school. But I really pray that maybe something today that we would prove to be holy for the Lord and go home and really accomplish something. Think of what we could do. How exciting would that be? So let's pray. Dear Lord Jesus, I thank you again for the opportunity. I thank you for the day. I ask, Lord, that you would please use what was said and help every lady that's here today to in some way just take one step